So for those that don't know you, Abby, talk me through your tribe. How many of you?
Tribe. So Huey?
Yeah.
7. Or nearly 7. I always say he's 7 and he's not even 7, he's 6. I always go like the number above.
Yeah.
Huey, 6.
Yeah.
Adelaide, nearly 2 this month.
Oh my gosh.
Goldie, 3 and a
3 and a bit. Awesome.
And Daniel.
And Daniel.
I guess he's on my tribe.
Oh.
Lucky man.
So good. So obviously Huey, first child.
Yeah.
You were young.
Yeah.
So what was it like in that moment when you were found out you were pregnant?
So I was 19, nearly 20. I think I just turned 20 when I had Huey.
Yeah.
But 19 when I got pregnant.
Yeah.
I think it was obviously one, a shock.
Yes.
You know. Sometimes when you don't use protection, you have a baby. But the thing is, I wasn't actually in the space of even wanting to have sex.
No.
So
yeah.
it was even more of a shock because it was my first time having sex ever. And I fell pregnant. I guess.
Which is just something you just didn't.
I'm done. My life is like, I honestly I remember finding out in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Falling on the floor and crying of just like, it actually was too much for me. I cannot cope. This is not real. This is not my life. I wasn't even wanting to have sex. Now I'm here, pregnant. It's just, this is not my journey.
Yeah. And there's a point where it was just all too much? It was just too much to handle.
Yeah. So I told my parents didn't live in the country at the time. Yeah. And I remember having to FaceTime my mum because she was in Israel and there was no other reception. So it was like FaceTime, "Hi mum and dad, I'm pregnant." And it was just not a good situation. No. It was the hardest thing I have walked in terms of disappointment, disappointing people, embarrassed that I didn't know enough about sex and all of those things. I mean, I wasn't stupid, but I was definitely surprised and don't know what I was thinking. And so,
And in that, do you feel like, what were your worries? Like, what did you, in that process of obviously having Huey as young as you were, did you struggle with that? What were your worries in the day-to-day?
So I had to went back to work when Houston was 4 months.
Yeah, wow.
So I wasn't with Huey's dad.
Yeah.
I have a great relationship with him now.
Yeah.
It's been 7 years,
Yeah.
so we've really journeyed through some stuff.
Yeah.
He was always around.
Yeah.
But we weren't in a relationship.
Yeah.
So I was doing...
In a way, you were a single mum. You know,
well, I was a single mum,
yeah. Exactly.
He didn't bring the emotional support that you would with a partner.
Yeah.
And he was also very young himself.
Yeah.
And figuring himself out.
Yeah.
So we're both these young people.
Yeah.
I naturally rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
He was 4 months old, went back to work full time. Dropped him. He was the first kid there and the last kid to leave Kindy.
In 4 months.
And I remember first dropping him and he like sat on the swing and like was so happy. And I actually, you know, they made my experience really great. They knew I was a single mum, or like a young mum trying to get some money, and so they made my experience really amazing. So drop him and then drive to work and come back. And the hardest thing was, and my worries, I guess, was I got 1 hour with my son every day.
Yeah.
Really bring him home, bath and feed him, and then in bed, and it's the next day.
Yeah.
And so, and then I also had split care with him from a very young age.
Yeah.
And as a mother, that's the most heart-wrenching thing, is to let go of your little baby. Yeah. And
let go of that control as
let
well.
Let go of that control of,
I
have this child with me.
Yes.
And then they leave me.
Yeah.
And I have no control over who's got them.
Yeah.
And although I knew where he was, I didn't know any of the details.
No.
And you are this mum, you're doing everything yourself, mum, identity as this baby,
Yes.
and then you're gone and you're like, all right, now
Yeah.
what am I doing? And so in terms of worries, my worry was, who's influencing him outside of me?
Yeah.
Is he going to feel like he's a bit lost identity-wise? Or where's his home? Where am I? Who really is my core family?
Yeah.
Is it too much for him? Is he at kindy too much?
Yeah.
Am I away from him too much? Had my brokenness of crying, because I would, like, it was a mess. Like, not only navigating myself as a young woman, but as a mum and all the in-betweens.
Yeah.
So he saw every single emotion that I've ever felt. He's seen me screaming, crying, uncontrollably crying. Yeah. He's gone through all of that. Is that too much for him? Has he seen too much of my vulnerability too early?
Yeah.
Which
is crazy now to see the boy he is.
Oh,
Who is just the most divine child who is so sensitive, and you know, we know that it's shaped him
totally.
To who he is now, which I think is amazing. So you were in that space. Where do you feel like your pivot point was? Where do you feel like in your life your point was where you were like, okay, things need to shift?
Definitely when I had to choose to not let it absolutely ruin me. So I think everyone's got completely different situations, and I think a lot of people now would look at me and say, oh, she's had it all, got it all.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, I had a lot of support, but you need to remember I had no family in the country.
Yeah.
I had no friends that had children.
Yeah.
Not one friend. They're 19. They're like, I don't know how to relate to a baby, nor do I even want one.
Yeah.
Like, you guys started having your babies and my child was at school.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know that. I didn't even want a child.
Yeah.
I did not want a baby.
No.
And so I'm like navigating all of that.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to a point where I'm like, this is now me. This is my life. I am a mum.
Yeah.
And I am young. And so let's like do this.
Yeah.
And I continued to, I had to still feel worthy enough.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I needed to let go of my burdens.
Yeah.
In order to do that,
Yeah.
I needed to let go.
Yeah.
I needed to not carry everything myself as I was. It was so heavy and too heavy for me to be able to continue.
Yeah.
And for me, that was handing them over to God. And He promises us that hand over your burdens and I'll make your burdens light and I will give you rest.
So
He
good.
says that in His word, that He's going to give us rest.
Yeah.
And I had to know, although I'm not perfect, I remember coming back heavily pregnant, and my mum turned to me and was like, you're going to still walk in those doors of church? And I'm like, there's hell no, I'm not going in those doors, there's no way, I'm not walking in those doors, full pregnant, young, I'm not.
No.
And mum's like, you are going to go walk through those doors because I know that you want to do that. My desire was to still follow my faith and to still serve and to be a part of that community because I love and I know that that is real and I cannot deny that.
Yeah.
So let's show up and value my relationship enough with God to be able to not let it be perfect.
Yeah, so good.
And have it all together.
Yeah.
And I walked in those doors. And I was welcomed with loving arms.
Yeah.
And people, sometimes we think people are going to judge us and we predict all these things.
Yeah.
And hey, yes, sometimes people do that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who want to love on you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who want to accept you.
Yeah, so
and so that was one of the things, chose to continue my faith.
Yeah.
And chose to rise to it.
And thrive in it.
Thrive in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
And I mean, there were times that I was not thriving.
Yeah.
At all. But there are times I was thriving.
Yeah.
And times where I was loving being a mum.
Being a mum. And so down the track, obviously you've got this young boy.
Yeah.
And then your hero comes along, Dan.
Oh my gosh, Daniel.
Who we all love.
He'll love you calling him a hero. He'll replay this.
Who we all love
Yeah.
and adore. So talk us through that, and I guess meeting him and that journey of, I guess, starting a family yourselves, and then the co-parenting of bringing two families together and chat us through that season.
Okay, so I'm going to come to that worry part because it relates to this.
Yeah.
And you worry so much about in the future, what will that look like with Houston coming into another relationship of mine. Am I worthy enough to step into another relationship where this man loves me so much, he's probably willing to become a dad before he actually becomes a dad to his biological children? Yeah. Because that's what it is. And I couldn't let go of that thought of, like, I love Huey. Yeah. And I do not think that he is not an asset to me. But I guess it's nice to be told that. So when I met Daniel, one of the very first things, I mean, he is this boy that was about town, right? Like, he is not thinking children at all. He meets me and his whole life falls apart now, awakens. And he said to me one time, you know what, just in passing comment, Huey's such an asset to you. And in that moment I knew that I was going to marry this man, because I'd been battling internally of, I can't go flatting, because who wants to flat with somebody who has a baby crying and all those things. And then I meet Daniel and he says that to me and I'm like, oh my gosh, so good. Oh my gosh, the freedom and like knowing that. Yeah. And then we got married.
It was all of your process, wasn't it? Let's elaborate on that.
Oh yeah. So like, I got together like 4 months and then got married. Got engaged after 4 months. Got married when we were like a year to being together or something like that. And the way he loved Huey is without limits. Yeah. And I think it takes a real man or a real person to be able to step forward and say, I'm going to take all of you. Yes. All of your background. Remember, he needs to take all of Houston's dad's side of the family, all of that busyness he accepts by saying he's going to be with me. Yeah. And he chose to do that without a thought. And yeah,
that's amazing. And so from coming together as co-parenting and that side as well, and merging those two families, obviously that's a journey. Yeah. You know, and you're down the track. But how was that? And how is that now?
You grow and you adjust. And I think we worry so much about what is to come. And I keep saying worry because it's such a massive part of our culture is to worry about things before they've happened. Yeah. And when I married Daniel and we fell pregnant with who is now Goldie. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, Goldie's going to be calling Dan Daddy. And then Houston's not going to be calling him Daddy because he sees his dad and we love his dad and his dad is that for him. And we honour his dad and he doesn't need to call Dan Dad. Yeah. So there's a lot of dads in that sentence, but so he now calls him DD.
Yeah, which is amazing. I love that.
DD.
And that was powerful when you guys did that, I think. Yeah, it was awesome.
So we made that call. Yeah. Like, hey buddy, let's call him. He's starting to call him Daddy and it's like, oh, no, because he's a no. He's like, this guy, you're all dads. You're all my dad. And it's like, well, no. Like, we can call him DD. So it's not Dan, but it's just like a special little name. Yeah. To honour Dan for all that he does for him, which is incredible. So I worry that, okay, why are they calling him Daddy and I'm calling him DD? And you know what? It's not been an issue. No. He's asked questions, of course. Yeah. Lots of questions. Yeah. But I answer them. Yeah. And he handles them. Yeah. And he's so secure. Yeah. And it's because of all the emotion he's felt, he's now so well adjusted and Yeah, that's amazing. That was but it's been good. He goes to his dad's house. Yeah. Every second weekend and he loves it. It's probably his favourite place. It's fun. There's no rules like there is here. Like in the sense of we're like school life and like homework life and then he's like, let's go skating. So good. And that's good. He needs that. Yeah. I grew up without a dad. Yeah. And I didn't have that. So I know that when I started this journey, I wanted him to know his dad. Yeah. If it was possible. Yeah. And if he wanted to. Yeah. And because I know how important that is because I didn't have that. Yeah.
So from your story and your journey, what's one thing you would want people to take away from it?
Are we like single mum girls or like people?
People?
Just everyone.
Just everyone?
All in.
All in.
I
could do one for that, one for single mums. You can pop 2 out if you like. It's all good. No rules.
No rules. Okay, so I think one thing is being able to ask for help is massive.
Yeah, so good.
And I needed to ask for help in moments and not carry it all. One being the burden, handing that over to God and trusting that He will hold my burdens and let me rest.
Yeah.
And I rested.
Yeah.
And then because I rested, I was able to give strength to be able to swallow my pride and having it all together and become vulnerable with people and say, you know, it's too much, I need help, can you come and watch Huey while I go to the gym? Or knowing what I need as me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that will help you is being okay with being like, I need some time, please take my child and nurture them, because it's so important for them to also see your community and be a part of your community.
Totally. Community is so important.
And so that would be probably the one thing. And another thing is all the things that I worried about worthy of a man, Houston feeling left out in the family, all those things that I was concerned about have not become a thing. Because I've stayed faithful and I've prayed over it every single day. And I remember one time organising Houston's room, and I was organising their coat hangers, and a lady said to me, honey, you're not going to need those coat hangers, you're going to be too tired, you're going to just be shoving everything in the drawer. And I was like taken back from that, because I was something that I liked the look of a room. I love the look of things. I've always liked that. I love interiors, and that was who I was, whether I was young and pregnant, had lots of money or not. I liked these coat hangers. And can I just tell you, Houston's 7 and they're still in his room.
I love that. And not settling. It's not settling.
$5 coat hangers and they're in his room. And he loves them, and he's had them for 7 years, and I love them.
So good.
But it shows that you don't need to lose every part of yourself because of your situation. And if there's something that's important to you, you need to keep that. And you're worthy of keeping that, and worthy of stepping into your calling, and worthy of chasing all the dreams that you want to do. I've done about 5 businesses, failed lots of them. But the point is, I've done that, and I haven't always had lots and lots of help by my side. There have been nights when I've been by myself.
For sure.
And now I'm married to an amazing man who takes me scars and all, and journey and all, and we're still walking through journeys. It's 7 years, and there's still things that I need to navigate around split families and Christmases and all of those things. But we do it.
You do it.
So that the advice is just focus on your day by day.
So good.
And pray over stuff.
So obviously for us, for Human As, community is so important. And so within your journey and looking back, what is one person, I know it's hard to pinpoint one person because obviously we've got a tribe around us, but who is that one person you'd love to thank and you'd love to just honour them for helping you in your journey or whatever they did through your journey? Okay, you tell them.
I'll tell them.
You tell them.
Okay, so one person that comes to mind instantly when I think of thanking them is my stepdad, John. So he came into my life when I can't even remember how old I was, young-ish, and he married my mum, and I grew up without a dad, and my biological dad is now passed away, and we've journeyed all of that. So he's been my saving there. But when I found out I was pregnant, when no one else was speaking to me and everybody else was shocked and stepping away per se for a little bit to process, no matter what he was feeling, he called me every single day to make sure that I knew that the person inside of me was alive and had a purpose and a future and would be loved. So Dad, I'll never, ever, ever forget driving home from work, like, so new to being pregnant and so confused on what I'm going to do in my journey, and you calling me and you said, I don't think you are understanding me. I'm calling and I'm telling you that this baby that you are carrying is going to be so loved in this family, and I'm so excited to meet this baby, and that I love you. And I knew that through those words he was struggling with the fact that I was going through and I was pregnant. He was shocked himself, but he put that aside to be able to make sure that I knew the truth. So I am so grateful, because I look at my 7-year-old now and I am in awe of the man and the little boy that he is. And you spoke that over him when I couldn't see it. So I love you so much, and thank you.
Oh my God. Let's hug it out.